In many ways, we've shown that together, if we work hard, hard work does pay off. And it is significant that this year we were able to touch the holy grail of 80% and go beyond. And that's an absolutely wonderful result. And I'd like to then say everyone who played a role, well done. But the problem with success is that it has to breed further success. And now that you've touched that holy grail, it means that you've got to keep on doing so. So next year we are expecting way beyond what we achieved this year. And in achieving these results, many schools had to overcome a number of challenges that are imposed by resource constraints, that are also imposed by the protests that we've had in our communities over a number of issues, and also challenges that many schools and communities have had to face in relation to alcohol and drug abuse and a number of other social ills. But among these schools is Rebani Laka High School in Mamelodi, which is here in Gauteng, and I can see the MEC beaming with joy, which achieved an impressive 97% pass rate against all odds in a township. And we encourage all other schools to emulate the methods that were used at Rebani Laka, especially the collaboration between teachers and parents and the practice of Saturday classes, which the principal has credited for the school's success. These additional lessons and classes that are taking place in a number of schools around the country are indeed showing that that type of hard work, going the extra mile, does pay dividends. We are meeting here to carve a new path of progress for our basic education sector in the last decade of our National Development Plan. We want to ensure that by 2030, South Africans have access to education and training of the highest quality, leading to significantly improved learning outcomes. The performance of South African learners in international standardized tests should be comparable to the performance of learners from countries at a similar level of development. All our learners have to be able to do a whole number of things related to those tests. For instance, they should be able to read for meaning by their 10th birthday. Our mathematics and physical science pass rates should be comparable with, if not better than, nations of similar size and budget. We're building an education system that will help free the potential of each of our citizens so that they too can enjoy the dividends of our hard-won freedom. The impressive 2019 matric rate pass is in line with the recent local and international studies that indicate that our system of basic education is indeed on the rise. And sometimes as a nation, we beat ourselves to the ground and think that we've got the worst education system. But if you look at the progress that we are making on an ongoing basis and we compare with what is happening in other countries, we can definitely say that indeed South Africa is on the rise, and we must all rise with it and not pull it down, because that's what we often do. Various international benchmarking tests show that our performance in maths and language is improving in several of the measured grades. We're making progress, and we are indeed moving forward. We most certainly are capable of achieving much more than where we are at the moment. And we're also much more capable of being a great nation. And that is what we must focus our eyes on. That we are indeed capable of being a great nation, and education is one of those key enablers that can get us there. We do need to get back to work and continuously improve the learning environment and ensure that it becomes even more conducive for our children to achieve excellence. And through a number of interventions that we are making, both as government as well as the various partners that we've amassed along the way, through the ASIDI and SAFE programs, we need to intensify our efforts to ensure that all our schools have appropriate structures, have appropriate infrastructure, as well as basic things such as sanitation, water, and electricity supply. We must ensure that the mud schools of yesteryear are forever banished to the past and to the dustbin of our history, and that all our children go to the toilet in safe and hygienic conditions. And working together with the National School Safety Framework, we must ensure that our schools are free of violence, of drugs, dangerous weapons, are also free of bullying, cyberbullying, gangsterism, sexual abuse, as well as sexual harassment. The district model is taking effect in enabling us to achieve good results all round. I have no doubt that as we deepen the implementation of this model, we will be able to deliver quality education to our children. Now, the district model I have found is what a number of other nations are also opting for, because it broadens scope and scale. It enables role players in any country or in any locality to be able to see the progress that can be made. It increases transparency. It also increases budget management as well. And if we can keep to the district model and have it spread out through the country, not only obviously in education, but in all other spheres that affect the lives of our people, we will find that indeed we are able to gain more and more traction. Our schools and then the entire education sector will benefit from the integrated planning that the district model has to give, better coordination and accelerated delivery of even non-core responsibilities such as infrastructure development and a whole range of other things that we need to do. Now, through this district development model, collaboration between departments, but also between managers and role players in education, enables us to improve a multidisciplinary, solution-oriented system, and it also enables us to engage with the community and address the challenges that even communities face, and also could lead to lesser and lesser disruption of learning and teaching. Our collective task as a nation is to move South Africa to the next frontier of economic development, in which basic education plays a critical role. Just as we know that the steam engine was the one process that spurred on the first industrial revolution. Electricity spurred on the second industrial revolution, and automation the third. And now data is spurring the fourth industrial revolution. We know too that the underlying driver of all these industrial revolutions was and remains education. Education is at the core of what enabled all these industrial revolutions to lead to the development of humankind. This means that we must continue to focus on improving education. And one of the most important elements of enabling education to gain more traction in the lives of human beings, of all of us, is improving the reading outcomes, particularly in the early grades. Rolling out the subjects of the future, such as robotics and coding, while giving our learners a choice of learning streams that best suit their capabilities. Our immediate task as government is to improve the foundational skills of our young people, particularly in literacy and numeracy, especially in reading for meaning. And I'm glad to hear that you are going, as a Lekgotla, going to be focusing on early childhood learning. It is for this reason that reading for meaning has now become and been declared an apex priority. Research has shown that for us to thrive in today's fast-changing world, our learners require a new breadth of skills. And these skills are still rooted in academic competencies such as literacy, numeracy, and science, but also include such things as teamwork, critical thinking, communication, persistence, and creativity. And all these skills in the end are interconnected. They are part and parcel of the skills set that is necessary to meet the demands of a changing economy and also the future of work. I participated with the Prime Minister of Sweden in an ILO study, which was a commission which was composed of a number of experts around the world, and we were looking at what is the future of work. And at the core of it, we found that education really resides at the center of what is the future of work. The future of work in the light of globalization that is spreading right across the world more and more, climate change, the fourth industrial revolution and the digital revolution, all these things are bringing about enormous changes. But at the core of it, we found that when you look at the future of work, it really revolves around education. It also revolves around lifelong learning. That one of the things that we should be encouraging more and more is to encourage our people to embark on a lifelong learning journey, so that they must never think that when they have learned either a particular skill that they have arrived. We need to encourage our people to learn more and more skills so that, yes, they are in a position to reskill themselves as the various industrial revolutions change circumstances and the environment. They are able to upskill themselves, and they are able to be dexterous through the multi-skilling process that they can gain from a lifelong learning journey. I commend the Department of Basic Education for moving with speed in implementing one of the State of the Nation Address commitments to ignite a reading revolution in our country. Since we made that commitment, a coordinating structure for the reading revolution, the National Reading Coalition, has been established and is now operational. Now, together with the Department of Basic Education, the coalition has finalized a comprehensive national reading plan, which is an overarching evidence-based strategy that will offer the entire reading landscape in the country. It complements existing reading initiatives such as the Read to Lead campaign. Now, since the Read to Lead campaign was launched in 2015, some 7,500 schools, I'm told, have benefited through the provision of libraries and appropriate books. But as I was saying, we now need to ensure that the young people actually read those books, because sometimes the books can just be a decorative art piece in libraries. We are indebted to the private sector and civil society organizations for contributing to the success that this initiative has brought about. The main thrust of our plan is to ensure reading for meaning across the curriculum in all grades and in all schools throughout the country. Our plan is to ensure that we teach all learners to read well. As society, we need to socialize our learners and the young people into becoming lifelong readers. We must support them in their reading for academic purposes, for knowledge and for enjoyment. Today, we say to all South Africans that reading is not a portion of education, it is education. We cannot succeed on our own as government to get a reading nation. I'm told that there are quite a number of nations that read well, or people in various other nations. I'm told that countries such as Russia, many people in Russia have taken on to reading as a lifelong, if you like, vocation. And we need to encourage South Africans to take up reading in a much more vigorous way. That is because the first real process in reading has to start with the teacher. The teacher is the one who must be encouraging the reading process, and also the parent in the home. So we need a collaborative effort and approach. What is taught at home must be reinforced also at school. Similarly, what is taught at school must also be reinforced at home. On our side, we have resolved to strengthen the capacity of the sector, especially teachers, through the wall-to-wall capacity building of anyone in the reading supply chain. All teachers need to go back to school to be taught the latest how to teach reading methodologies. We must train our teachers thoroughly and provide age and language relevant materials to all our learners. As a citizen myself, I've spoken about reading quite extensively, and I've even done some virtual tests on people that I come across to find out whether they are readers or not. I've often told people that I have a friend who in her earlier days used to read up to 50 books a year. She now reads about 40. And I sought to emulate her. I got only up to 40 books a year. 40 books a year. Now, my friend used to read a book a week. And I tried, but I'm not often successful at everything that I try to do. But I got to 40. And one of my New Year resolutions this year, because I've slid down, is to get to 30 books a year. And it's a New Year resolution, and I'm going to try everything I can to get to read 30 books in a year. A few years ago, I encouraged people to at least read 12 books a year. That in a month, try and read a book. But I often ask people whether they do read or not, and I often say, those who read 50 books a year, please raise your hands. And I often find no one raises their hands. I'm not going to do it on you because I don't want you to be ashamed of yourself. And then I often ask 40 books, 30 books, and I often do it on students. I ask students whether they do read or not. But I had great success once when I was at the University of the Free State. I asked students if they read, and I went through my usual test. And in the end, only a few students raised their hands at 15, 10, and 5. And then I said, please be honest. Those of you who do not read, who have not read a book this year, raise your hands. A number of students raised their hands. Then one day, I was in the Northwest, like 3 or 4 years later, I did a similar test again. And one of the people who stood up said, when you were deputy president, you asked us at the University of the Free State whether we read or not. I was one of those who had not read a book in a year. I'm here to tell you now that since that time you encouraged me to start reading. And I'm here to tell you that having started reading, I've gone even beyond the 30 books a year, but I've also become a writer. I now write children's books. Now, I felt really encouraged that the message that I've been propagating is getting through. But it also got through with one of my old friends, a friend I've had for 40 years, who is 10 years older than me. And when I told him the story, he confessed to me that he had not picked up a book to read in 30 years. And he said, when you told me this story, I was ashamed. And he said, I went to a bookshop, I bought books, and I have started my reading journey again. So without trying to embarrass any one of you, I want to encourage all of us to go back to reading. To go back to reading, because if we do it here as teachers, as people who are active in the education field, we'll then be able to encourage others. Now, I will be launching the President's Reading Circle, which is a virtual book club which will allow readers to share their views on the books with me. We will have this event once a year where we allow people to share what they are reading. Because I do want all of us as a nation to take up reading and to get our young people to love books, as well as our old people, as I found that even old people are not great readers. And I encourage you, as it will be launched more fully, to sign up so that all of us can be part of this effort. But at the same time, the initiatives that have been taken by the Basic Education Department must go on to encourage more and more reading in our nation. I've been told that engagements and discussions at this basic education Lekgotla have been productive and have resulted in tangible outcomes. They have demonstrated the importance and the value of partnership in meeting the developmental needs of our country. And this Lekgotla confirms that indeed education is a societal issue. And I hope that the discussions that will continue, particularly in early childhood development as well, will be fruitful and there will be discussions that will help our country move forward, particularly around early childhood development. Once we had decided that we will move early childhood development from social development, social welfare development, I found that even ordinary people, parents, were applauding this initiative because they had concluded in their own minds that early childhood development was misplaced away from basic education as it was in social welfare. And now it's important that as basic education we should indeed wrap our hands and our arms around early childhood development. And that is why, Minister Motshekga, I'm really delighted to hear that you are going to be discussing early childhood development. And I wish you well and all of you the best in taking forward the endeavors of this Lekgotla and in continuing with this most important job of all, to prepare our youngest citizens for a very rich and productive and fulfilling future. And with that, I can see that we don't only have the finest minds here, we've got the people who have been making a truly meaningful contribution in the development of education in our country. And I can say without any equivocation that indeed our basic education is on the rise. Yesterday I had a discussion with the Minister of Higher Education, and he was telling me, Minister Motshekga, that they as higher education are now fully ready for those young people who you have produced as matriculants. They are now fully ready, and this very morning he's going to be announcing in a few minutes how ready they are to receive as many matriculants as possible who you have produced. And once again, I congratulate you and I thank you for all the efforts that you've put in to ensure that our education efforts and endeavors do move ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We can take a seat. Thank you very much, President. Let me take this opportunity to thank you on behalf of all our participants here. And indeed, we've been going through very exciting inputs, very, I think, enlightening and educating experiences that came from our experts. This afternoon, we'll be going to commissions to concretize the things that we're doing, and tomorrow we'll be focusing strictly on ECD. I really want to thank you most sincerely for making the time, and can say to the chair, with the chair's permission, that we release you. You really finish on time, so next time they will, where's Kusa in the office, that they will, when I say 9:30, we do the Buffalo time, it's 9:30. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.